You won't believe how hot that thing was when it went off. It had a big mushroom that raised up way up into the air. I don't know how many feet. I know that day that it happened, it broke windows in Las Vegas 60 miles away. My name is Roger Davis.
Oh, I was born in Tama County.
I was the oldest one of two boys.
I went to country school east of Grinnell, the first school I went to. I only went when I was 4 years old just to keep the school open. But they were taking me to school in the bobsled because the damn horses had to plow the road to get there. We moved to Hartwick before I graduated from the 8th grade. I was graduated from high school there also. I moved up there and I did not know squat about how they were doing the English and crap that way. We didn't have a farm till we moved down to Hartwick. We didn't have a pot to piss in either. We had to pull 20 head of cows every morning and night in order to have milk and separate the cream in order to have money to put extra food on the table.
After I graduated from high school, I couldn't find work where I could make any money. My dad was a sheriff farmer. He had a farming for himself. And I was having trouble making enough money to keep us all going. So I tried to help out by going into service. They sent me to Fort Riley, Kansas for my basic training of 16 weeks. After that, we come back out and I volunteered for the airborne training. My dad thought I was crazy, wanting to jump out of a perfectly good plane. Our first week down there, we were going up on a 250-foot tower. They'd take us up to within 20 foot of the top and wait for the other 3 to go down in order to pull your chute and slip away from the tower.
Complete malfunctions are very rare. Even partial malfunction should not be treated lightly. The most important reaction to most of them is activate your reserve. You've been taught to slip and avoid other jumpers. But when you can't slip away, it's possible to bounce off the suspension lines using the spread eagle. If there's an entanglement, the most important thing is not to panic.
You have a certain position to hold in order to keep from getting thrown back against the side of the plane, because a prop blast is something you wouldn't believe. I did get thrown back against it one of my last jumps, and I stuck to the side of the plane. 7 people went by me before I got off. They wanted to know where I went to when I got down. Well, I told them I had to go kiss a girl. After we got our jumping wings and then our training, they sent us to face the atomic bomb. They told us it was.
In this remote desert area, about 75 miles northeast of Las Vegas, Nevada, the Atomic Energy Commission, in collaboration with the United States Army and Air Force, will conduct the atomic test known as Exercise Desert Rock.
They did not give us a choice as to whether we did go or whether we didn't go. If I'd had a choice of whether I went or whether I didn't, I would not have gone. before the action happened, we worked digging foxholes with jackhammers. They used the animals in our foxholes instead of humans.
Sheep are placed in a variety of emplacements and shelters. Some are placed in enclosures at ground level, while others are placed in below-ground positions.
The morning of the exercise, we were supposed to be in concrete bunkers 10 miles away from ground zero. The day of the action that morning, there was a VIP came in and moved us out to the 6-mile range and sitting on bare sand. No protection. They gave us sunglasses, but they just well stuck them in the well because they were no good.
Proper protection is based on what we know about the penetration of gamma rays and neutrons. The ability of a shielding material to stop them is expressed in half thickness. The thickness necessary to reduce the radiation's intensity 1/2. In dealing with gamma rays, the half thickness of a very dense material like steel is 1 inch. That of concrete, less dense, is 3 inches, while 12 inches of wood, which is quite porous, is required.
This is no simulated mission. This is no dry run. This is the real thing.
You don't feel anything outside of the concussion of the shock wave. And if we'd have been standing up, it'd have knocked us all down. The heat from that bomb and the crater that it created, I don't know how big it was. I'm estimating 60 feet deep and 80 foot across. But it was hot enough, that heat off of that it melted the sand and made a glass lining in that whole crater.
Its identifying marks were standard. First, the light accompanying the burst had lasted longer than the flash of an ordinary explosion. And now it wrote its signature in the sky, the mushroom cloud formation that is the autograph of the atomic bomb. Dog was the type of nuclear burst which, as history and experiment have shown, delivers a deadly, devastating combination of blast, heat, and immediate radiation.
I've never went back to see what it done. I didn't need any more radiation what I had already absorbed. Then we went on a maneuver in New York, testing winter clothes for those in Korea. I was on an incident that happened while I was there. I was on KP one day, not as a punishment, but as my duty for the day. I got done with my duty, and I was going to go to town, catch up with the rest of the boys. It was on a payday, and they had told us not to go to town by ourselves, which I was big and bad, so I went. by myself. Somebody stepped out of the alley and grabbed me by the hand. I did a full 360 and caught him in the throat with the knuckles. He was laying out on in the sidewalk, and I went on around the corner. He was still laying there when I went around the corner. Well, I got caught up with the rest of the boys. They wouldn't know what took me so long. Well, I said I had a girl I had to go see. I didn't tell them till I come back, till I had a smart remark to make, which we all did. Always had something smart to say.
It was a sunny day in the fall of 2013, and he had to go get a checkup, but was extra ornery that day. After we walk into the VA, he approaches a veteran working at the hospital. He tells him that he's an atomic veteran and he has lost his hearing in both ears from the A-bomb blast in Nevada. They talk for a few minutes and Grandpa leaves to go to his doctor's appointment down the hall. I walk up to the veteran and talk with him a few minutes about getting an ad in the hospital for my business, Life Preserver Media. About 20 minutes later, Grandpa comes back, and instead of walking out of the building with me, he walks back up to the veteran and says in a stern voice, "Now you behave yourself." To which the veteran replies, "Why should I?" Grandpa says, "Because if you don't, I'll come back and whoop you."
While I was still in the service,
I started having hearing trouble just shortly after the combustion at Nevada because they blew both of my eardrums. I noticed it more when I first got out of service in January of 1953. Of course, I was married then.
Rented an apartment around Fort Campbell. We came home in January the 15th, 1953, which made me my 2 full years.
And Alberta's wondering why I wasn't hearing anything. So we went and got hearing aids. I had one in each ear, and that helped me for about 20 years. But after that, there wasn't anything I could do. Couldn't hear anything then.
In June of 53, we had a baby born. I never got to see the baby. I never heard it cry. My wife never saw her either. We had to take care of her by ourselves. So we put her in a cemetery. We had a second pregnancy. The embryo turned to grapes, and the grapes turned malignant. So my wife had to have a hysterectomy. So that left us without being able to have a family of our own. After we got straightened up, we put in for an adoption. 8 months before we got one. And there's a little girl. Well, she grew up a little bit.
He came into my life when I was 8 months old. And my parents got a call and they said, "We have a baby for you." They said they stood in line for 8 hours in the pouring rain in Ottumwa, Iowa. And this was probably a day or two after my parents adopted me.
after we had her and got straightened up again financially, we specified a boy. He was a little boy, 8 days old, weighed 8 pounds. Well, he's grown up too. He's 6'6" and 300 pounds. Now, I won't go in a dark room if he's mad at me. Can you believe it's 8 years between them?
What an inspiration he's been to me growing up, and I know to my brother as well. And we were lucky to be selected by them.
At the time of the burst, vast amounts of dirt, stone, and other debris, vaporized by the heat of the explosion, are sucked up into the rising cloud. Can you or anyone else predict with accuracy the pattern by which fallout particles will return to Earth? The answer is no.
Our knowledge of the hazards of ionizing radiation was slowly evolving. At the time, and the technology to monitor exposures was in the embryonic stages of development. But today, Mr. President, we do know that at certain exposure levels, ionizing radiation causes or is a contributing factor in the onset of cancerous tumors.
I could not get anything commission, any compensation from them, Uncle Sam, because of radiation. I have tried 4 or 5 times. One of them had guts and said I wasn't there. So I wrote a letter to the Atomic Energy Commission at Las Vegas, Nevada, and asked for a full roster of everybody there. I got the paper back. My name with all 880 of us is in there.
It is really impossible to know the actual levels received by servicemen and those who participated in the testing programs over 30 to 40 years ago.
The truth is, Mr. President, that we will never know the extent of the exposure to ionizing radiation that these troops received. Some clearly received significant doses. Many were given no film badges or bad badges that could not be read, or their badges were not read properly. Guessing at dosages and then attempting to surround those guesses with scientific jargon to make them sound precise just will not do.
We're trying to be all-encompassing to those veterans with an expanded list of presumptive diseases, 13 in all, yet at the same time we're closing the door on many of them who may come down with various diseases.
I had both of my ears that was broke. That's the reason I have this implant. Otherwise, I could hear nothing. Uncle Sam did not pay for that. I did.
I believe strongly that we have the responsibility to ensure that these veterans and their families are finally treated in an even-handed and compassionate way with respect to their claims for VA compensation benefits. Yet the Veterans Administration has awarded compensation in less than 40 of the over 6,000 radiation cases filed. Only 40 of over 6,000.
Freedom is not free. It cost a lot of lives.